The Boston Bruins just played a near-perfect playoff road game, taking Game 4 in Toronto and putting the Leafs in shambles.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome to a special bonus episode of Locked On Boston Bruins. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked Beat. Today is Sunday, April 28th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go free on the App Store or Google Play. Had to jump on today and talk about a pivotal Game 4 victory for the Boston Bruins, in which they broke the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll talk about the perspective from their side here in a moment and discuss how the Bruins just dominated this playoff road game. First, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. So, first off, Jim Montgomery decided to go with Jeremy Swayman for Game 4 against the Maple Leafs, deviating from the goalie rotation. He said afterwards that the plan had been to give each of Swayman and Linus Ullmark a start and then go with the hot hand based on performances in games 1 and 2. Now, whether or not that's just, things have worked out. So that's what we'll say the plan was. If Swayman had lost game 1 and Ullmark went and won game 2, we'd have a different story here. But maybe they would have gone back to Swayman, kept the rotation. At any rate, Swayman started game 4 and was near perfect with a lot of help from the Bruins in front of him. In fact, the Maple Leafs had only one high danger shot against the Bruins, and that was the Mitch Marner goal that came in the third period. Kind of got the blood pressure raised a little bit, but it was 3-1 at that point. And the Bruins, who had major troubles earlier on the season, closing games out, thwarting 6-on-5 situations, were able to close things out and take game 4. Now, a couple things to note. Auston Matthews did not finish this game. He was out of the third period due to apparent illness, or there's a report that he's dealing with food poisoning. William Nylander was in this game, played pretty well, but it was the Bruins' best players who certainly stepped up to help win this one. First of all, it was James Van Riemsdyk who took advantage of a glorious turnover by Ryan Reeves to pot his first of the playoffs past Ilya Samsonov. And then Brad Marchand scored the eventual game winner on the power play about halfway through the second period. And then to really ice it, just a beautiful play by Marchand to grab the loose puck, get it over to David Pastrnak with like 40 seconds remaining in the second period to put the Bruins up 3-0 at that point, and the Leafs were booed off the ice. Now, one of the big differentiators in this one, there was a big hit advantage for the Toronto Maple Leafs, 49-23, but that's not necessarily a sign that, they were being more aggressive and on pucks. It's sometimes a case where they're just chasing the game all game long. The Bruins had much better forecheck. They had much better zone entries, and the Leafs were chasing the game a lot, therefore throwing the body on and trying to get the puck away from the Bruins, who had it very much. Now, the other big stat was blocked shots. The Bruins led here 27-6. 6 block shots in a playoff game for the Maple Leafs. Not great at all. Again, the penalty kill for the Bruins was perfect, keeping the Leafs off the board in 3 opportunities. The Bruins went 1 for 3 on the man advantage with that goal coming from Brad Marchand. Just a beautiful road playoff game for the Bruins, able to establish their game in what was a hostile environment towards them to begin the game, and what ended up as a hostile environment for the home team as they were booed off the ice. Now, the Leafs did have 60% of the shot attempts in this one, 53% of the shots, but the Bruins had much better opportunities, kind of high danger chances, scoring chances. In all situations, the Leafs had quote unquote 7 high danger chances, but the Bruins did so well to keep them outside of the slot area, and a lot of those chances came in the third period when score effects start to kick in, and that's when the team who is behind starts to ramp it up because they're really chasing it. It's not as indicative of how the play had been going. Now, when they made it 3-1, I was a little bit nervous, of course, but there was no Matthews, and the Leafs were pretty disjointed throughout the night. Just an unbelievable game for the Bruins. Jeremy Swayman's now 3-0 in this series. He's allowed only 4 goals, a .956 save percentage in this series against Toronto. And my money's on him being in the net for Game 5 on Tuesday. A game we'll preview later on in the week here as we get ready for that one. But the Bruins playing a fantastic road game. Yes, they were outshot 25-22, but they got the puck on Samsonov, who was eventually pulled in favor of Joseph Woll. And the Leafs, the vibes could not be more opposite between Boston and Toronto at the moment. We'll talk about that more here as the podcast continues. NFL draft is behind us. Focus right now is on the NBA, NHL playoffs, as well as Major League Baseball. It's winner take all time in basketball and hockey, though, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Monopoly Go is the hit twist on the classic Monopoly board game. It is so fun and free to download on Google Play and in the App Store. Grab your monocles, throw on your top hats, and check out what feels like a new and exciting challenge every day. Constantly changing tournaments and boards, a ton. Include their own mini games like digging for treasures or robot pachinko machines even. There's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or even rent frenzies. Something fun to discover in Monopoly Go every day. So get off the bench and go download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Can't say enough this morning about Brad Marchand and his performance so far for the Boston Bruins. His goal eclipsed Cam Neely for the franchise lead in playoff goals, and he just was the biggest reason, other than Swayman, that the Bruins took those 2 games from the Leafs on the road. You know, I thought coming into last night's game that they were in a good spot, having already stolen a game, but to come out with 2 wins in Toronto is massive. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, on the other side of things, they're a mess. There was a clip from the second period where Auston Matthews was sniping at one of his teammates. William Nylander could be seen saying something like, "Stop crying, bro. This isn't junior." Mitch Marner took his gloves off and threw them down. Kelly Rudy on the Sportsnet broadcast said that's something you see in like Pee Wee hockey. The Leafs very down at the moment, and the Bruins need to take advantage of that and close this out in Game 5. We all saw what happened last year against the Florida Panthers. The Leafs are offensively gifted. Brad Marchand said that as much after the game. They're extremely talented. You can't give them much. You saw it in the third there. They had a few plays they created out of nothing, and they had that ability to take over a game. And the Bruins need to keep it going 110%. Some of what is working for the Bruins is luck. I mean, Matthews dealing with food poisoning, Nylander being out for a few games. But that one shot from Trent Frederick in Game 3 that went in. But the Bruins are also doing a lot of the things right that Toronto's not doing, and that's giving full effort, winning board battles, loose pucks, creating odd man rushes. The Bruins have a big job ahead of them, and they cannot let the Leafs get any hope here in Game 5 so as to kind of fuel what's going on. There's huge frustration in Toronto. It's spilling over on the bench. It's coming from the crowd. The Boo Birds were out in full force, and the Leafs have high expectations. They have, a core minus John Tavares that's right in the prime of their careers with Marner, Nylander, Matthews, and if they can't come back, there could be some drastic changes in terms of coaching, on ice personnel. They said this year was going to be different. They say that every year, much to our delight as Bruins fans. It's not their year yet. But again, I'm trying not to get too far ahead of myself here. The series is not over. We all saw what happened last year against the Florida Panthers. Are these Leafs those Panthers? Yeah, probably not. But still, if Matthews is back in the lineup, there's 2 days here between games. If he's back in the lineup, Nylander, Marner has not played great. He's probably dealing with residual effects from an ankle sprain he suffered earlier in the season, but he's made some big plays in Game 3, Game 4. But Swayman has been a difference maker. Plus, the Bruins being able to keep the Leafs out of those high danger chances. I'd be shocked if they don't go back to Swayman in Game 5. But what a game last night. I was so pumped watching this game in the comfort of my family room. When they went up 1-0, feeling good. That 2-0 goal, feeling really good. And then that backbreaker. Thank goodness for that Pastrnak goal, because if it had been 2-1 heading into the third, or 2-0, and then Marner scores, different vibes. But right now, the vibes could not be more different in Boston and Toronto. Way down. Stonks are up in Boston. Again, not getting ahead of ourselves, but things look pretty good. On tomorrow's episode, going to be joined hopefully by Arun Srivanasan, who covers the Leafs from Toronto, to kind of get their perspective. On Tuesday, we'll preview Game 5, and hopefully at that point we can start to look ahead to round 2, but not quite yet. All right, friends, that's it for a quick bonus episode of Locked On Boston Bruins. I hope you're all doing well, taking care of yourselves, taking care of each other. Have a good rest of the weekend, and we'll talk to you here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.